Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Path Podcast. Today on the show is a very special woman. She is my friend and my sister. She is loved wherever she goes because of the joy she brings and how she makes you feel when in her presence. Before I tell you more about my guest, let me share what today's show is about. Today, we are traveling this bold sister's path through life. When she and I spoke, she told me there was no subject off limits. In her words, and I quote, I am an open book. I promise. I have made enough mistakes on my journey to make another's life better, and I will openly share. But if we're all honest, who hasn't made mistakes in their lives? We will speak about being a teen mother, divorced twice, domestic abuse, and a spirit of suicide. To also being a health and wellness advocate with weight loss battles. Anyone who is out there that's ever felt like you've made too many mistakes and think what good can come out of it or to you, well, sit back and hear how my sister today, and I quote, is now loving life so much. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this queen, Cynthia Diana Urquhart, the name behind a memoir entitled We Won't Wobble Always, which we will get into later. Cynthia is currently a real estate agent with Realty One Group located in Duluth, Georgia. Cynthia's professional career began in the state of Arkansas, where she worked as a customer service representative with Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, and later left and spent more than 30 years and culminated at AT&T Yellow Pages and Advertising Services as an editor for the telephone book directory. After retiring, Cynthia moved to Atlanta, Georgia, to the Atlanta, Georgia area to be closer to her beautiful daughter, Tracy Jordan Robinson. Although retired now, Cynthia was still too young to just sit back and bask in her years of hard work. To add to her resume, Cynthia is gifted and performed as a voiceover artist, community theater actor, and stage director, and professional hairstylist. Cynthia loves Jesus with her whole heart. She's a health and wellness advocate, loves people, and believes that laughter is a vital sign for her. Cynthia's personal motto is I would rather spend 60 seconds at the feet of wisdom than a lifetime at the head of ignorance. I love that quote. Everyone, let's welcome our sister, Cynthia Diana Urquhart. Hello, my sister. How are you?
Hello, beautiful. I am well. Thank you for asking. And how are you?
I am
Though I already know the answer to that, Arlene.
I am only feeling that way because you are here. You make everybody feel like they're the most important person in the room at that moment. And I want everybody to know she does make you feel that way. And I thank you for always, since the day I met you through another friend, you've always,
Yeah.
it's like we connected immediately. And
Yep.
that's just because of the person you are. That's why I'm so
Well,
honored to have you here and so honored to walk this journey with you.
thank
Um,
you, Arlene. I am so proud of you and what you are doing. The messages that you're sending out to women. Well, look, I don't know what you could get out of me, but the ones I've heard, yours and that of Sister LaDonna's, wow, powerful. That's all I can say.
yes.
Powerful.
And let
You
me tell
have
you,
blessed.
LaDonna is that one I told her she's an honorary member and will
Yeah,
always be here, but she spoke
yeah,
to my heart every time I think of her, when I see her. And she's like
yeah,
you. She's smiling every time you see her. The joy, I want everybody to meet LaDonna. I would love, and
amen.
everyone,
I want to
LaDonna
meet
is in
LaDonna.
episode 2 of the Path Podcast. So go back and check out her podcast. It is a powerful story of a mother
Yeah.
and loss and
Yeah.
all she's been through. So I'm thankful for the gifts that God is placing her and what she's doing. And also
Amen.
you. That is, I am so honored for you being here. And everyone, let me tell you, I am a little nervous because this lady has done radio and she's done it all out there. Believe it or not, she didn't put it all in her bio, but she's done more than we may think. So I'm just honored and a little nervous with her right now. But we're going to jump into this podcast so we can talk about her story. Now, Cynthia, tell me a little bit about the young Cynthia. What was life like growing up? And can you remember the dreams, the hopes and dreams you had for yourself?
Mm, very good question, Arlene. Yeah, I can remember life growing up, of course. And you know what? When you say that,
Mhm.
the first thing that comes to mind is how I was a chubby kid. I was a fat kid, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's actually the first thing that comes to mind. Even though I kind of figured what you were going to ask me about, but still, when you just asked that question, the picture that flashed through my mind was me as a fat kid and how unhappy I was in my skin. Even then, I
mhm.
was, yeah, I was a fat kid, and not only did I know it, but it was obvious, of course, to everybody else. I was teased in school, couldn't participate in activities the way that I wanted to. I was always comparing myself to other people because all my friends were gorgeous. All my friends were beautiful, seriously. And I thought, why can't I look like them? So when you ask me about growing up, I think about that. But I had I had a good childhood. I was raised in the country. At that time, I didn't
Same.
appreciate it. I didn't want to be in the country. I wanted to move to the city, honey, see some lights, hear some
Yes.
noise instead of crickets
Uh-huh.
and frogs. But now I appreciate the country. It's like every time I go out, I'm looking for trees and dirt and water. So
Yeah.
uh, I that was my life as a kid. So I played out in the yard and all that kind of good stuff. Life was much more free then than it is now for children. Sometimes my heart bleeds because rarely do you see kids just outside playing, especially without supervision.
Yes.
And it's a good thing. I mean, you gotta, unfortunately, today you gotta have somebody watching our kids. They can't just be out there running around.
Exactly. I
Uh,
so agree with that.
my dream for myself when I was young, growing up, going. It's going to sound like I had a really gory childhood. Look, as I think of the things I want to share, but I remember what I always wanted to do was to be a television announcer.
Oh,
That was my dream. That's where my heart was set on being a television announcer. And I remember when I was in high school, about look before I dropped out. I didn't throw that part in because I did drop out of high school. But anyway,
yeah.
I was in about the 11th grade, I believe, and we had career day.
Mhm.
And a gentleman in journalism came and asked. He was one of the speakers to come to our class. And when I shared with him that that's exactly what I wanted to do, I wanted to become a journalist and be in television, right? And he said, so simply that I would never make it because of my size, because of my weight. So
Wow.
there again was another reminder that I'm this
Exactly.
fat kid.
Of course. Of course.
And then look, guess who comes right after that and is known worldwide? Oprah.
Oh, did that okay. And when Oprah came in, did that help you around what that was like teen years? You're saying that was still in teen years. So when she came along, did that help that, feeling? Of course, not that you still don't feel like you're not, I'm not going to say fat, but, oh, overweight. But did that help you
Uh-huh.
somewhat to see somebody on TV that looks like you? Because that's why I believe representation is so important today. Like we talking about it today. We needed that back then
Yeah.
too, right, Cynthia?
Oh, absolutely. Well, by the time she came about, and you could see how great she was, and realized that she had gotten into that industry, giving no regard to her size. It was her confidence. By that time, I was to a whole nother level of depression. So, and becoming a journalist was all out of my being then.
Yeah.
So I was. I want to say I was happy for her, but I don't know if that's true.
Exactly. Exactly. But so you feel like more to it felt you felt like because she had the confidence to go into it, that helped more than what you didn't have at that time because of your
Absolutely.
feelings. And
Absolutely.
yeah. So and you feel like the feelings of being that where you see you were teased a lot, that played
Yeah,
a
I was
part in
gonna
it?
walk in meat market, big scent, just all these names that I can still hear now. But yeah, I was and I already didn't feel good about myself, so it didn't help. The
Of
teasing didn't
course.
help.
Of
And
course
of
not.
course, the kids didn't mean anything. They were just being kids. And
Yes.
when you compare to what kids have to go through now, what I went through then, there is no comparison.
It is a comparison, Cynthia. You know, one thing I love to always say, our feelings are valid. I'm always when you feel something, it is real. So
You're
everybody
right.
always have to acknowledge that. All of our feelings are always valid, no matter what. So no one's pain is worse than anybody else's, is my feelings. So we have
You're
to always
absolutely
now, I
correct.
think, acknowledge that. So and going through that had to be a trying time for any young person because I can recall now with my daughter, it was always my goal to try to push into her confidence because I know
Yeah.
that confidence, and when that confidence is gone and the mind feels like I don't feel pretty, or if I don't feel this way, that
Hmm.
can change the whole trajectory of the life we think we want. Even though, like you said, that confidence has to come into play because somebody is going to tell you you're either not pretty. You know, for
Yeah.
females, I'm talking to the women, and if and men that are out there listening, please clearly hear us. Anyone, anytime you make someone feels that you feel that way, it seems like it takes another layer off that confidence level, especially as a young person. And that is so critical to because the mind will tell you things already itself. Our personal minds will tell us things about ourselves because we are our worst critic. But when
Yeah.
someone else adds to it, it magnifies that. So feeling that way, you kind of said you still want would did you still want to go that route of being in journalism, or you really just like let it go? Because you mentioned that you dropped out of high school. What made you decide to make that decision?
Drop out of high school. I was embarrassed. In 11th grade, I'd become pregnant, and I was embarrassed. That's the
You were
bottom line.
embarrassed. What
Um,
you mind me asking what age that was when you became pregnant?
I was 16. I was 16
16.
when I became pregnant. I was 17 when I gave birth to my daughter.
You already were saying you were overweight, you didn't feel a certain way. So you were dating someone at the time. Own beauty comes from our own feelings and not from someone else.
Yeah,
But
but I didn't feel that. I never felt pretty. Never
yeah,
felt pretty because I had terrible acne, overweight. Now, ironically, when I became pregnant, it was probably when I was at my smallest size. So that's probably
wow.
how anyway. Yeah. So
So
I,
so
I
did
only
you
got a chance to live in that moment for a little bit because I got pregnant, then I gained 100 pounds.
I'm not gonna Cynthia, that's we as pregnant women gain weight. So that is something that
Yeah,
happens. So, but
that
so
is
did
true.
you were you working out before that time when you felt like you were at a stage where you had already so you had dropped weight, of course. You were working out and everything, or you just kind of like
I wasn't where I was so I think because I'd gotten so busy in
mhm,
school, I
okay.
was in a number of organizations. So I was just busy. I had life and maybe I just didn't have the time to sit and be a glutton all day.
Yes.
I think that's probably how, and you know what? I take that back because I took judo for a little bit. When I was taking judo, that I guess yeah, we did exercises there. So I think maybe that was probably an introduction for me
Yes.
to um a life of exercise.
Mhm.
Not long, didn't last long because as I stated, I lost a little bit of weight. I met my daughter's father. We dated for about a year.
About a year.
We
Okay.
became dated. Is that really what we did? We anyway. We were together for about a year.
Yes.
Became pregnant and got married. So that's why I dropped out of school. That was just a little bit too much. Here I am. Had been on the homecoming court and just a pretty popular young lady,
Yes.
young girl. And then what kind of example am I setting? So I was just thoroughly embarrassed and just didn't want to face it.
So
So,
you seem like you put a lot of pressure on yourself, of course, because
well, yeah, because I had a lot of expectation for myself.
yes,
Even at that time, I enjoyed school. I loved going to school.
yes,
I'd taken enough credits just by going to summer school, and I didn't even realize this. Not going to summer school because I had to, but just because I wanted to take classes. I've
yeah,
always enjoyed learning. Even to this day, I enjoy learning. So after I dropped out of school in the 11th grade, the second semester, I just didn't go back. Just go back.
uh-huh,
And the following year, I'd given birth to my daughter. So this had to be around 1977. I'd given birth to my daughter,
hmm,
and I knew that having a high school education was the least I had to do. I had to go back. So I swallowed my pride and I went back just to see, what I was going to have to do. Felt like I was going to be put back a year and all this kind of stuff.
yes,
I had taken so many classes just at will until I had enough credits to graduate with my own class and didn't
wow,
even go to school the whole day. Didn't have to. Didn't have to take
exactly,
enough courses to go the whole day. So I did that and moved on. At that time, because I was married,
hmm.
I
So you
got
were married by
married
that
at
time, which was
yeah,
17,
well, actually, I was married at 16. I got
16,
married got
uh-huh,
married at 16
had your baby at 17.
and had my daughter at 17,
Okay,
went back to school. And after I graduated school, I started work immediately. I started work at the telephone company.
yes.
So, um, yeah,
But look,
started
before
working.
we go there, let me ask you this. Getting married even at that age, tell
Mhm.
me a little bit, if you don't mind, first about that before you started living the family life of trying to raise a family with a
Right,
husband at
right.
such a young age. How,
Mhm.
you
Well,
couldn't
the reason we got married is because, of course, my mother had always preached responsibility.
yes,
You should be responsible for whatever actions you take. So I gotten pregnant. I didn't feel like it was my parents' responsibility to take care of me. Based upon a situation I put myself in.
yes. Hmm.
I I just didn't feel like I should put that burden upon them. So my daughter's father and I we talked about it and we decided to get married and I was fine with that because if I was going to have this baby, then I did want her to have her father. Um, yeah, so we got married. I
That's
think
what a lot of people have done.
yeah, I did a you want to make you can't do something else that's I'll say, well, it was wrong. I had no business getting married, but I
Yes,
felt like if I did that, that would make this other mistake I'd made better. Not so,
yes,
you know. And I want to sit right there for just a moment, and that is, it doesn't matter what you've done, what mistakes you feel
exactly,
like you've made. Deal with those. Deal with that one right there.
exactly.
Don't try to make it anything else.
Yeah,
Understand what it is, why you were there, and face it. Now, I'm
ex-
saying this 45 years later, but I
yeah.
so mean it. It doesn't matter. God loves us regardless to what we have done.
Amen to that.
And we've got to learn how to, dance to the music that's being played.
Exactly,
Instead of doing that, I wanted to make it look better than it was.
exactly.
And so we got married and we were both
But I like what you said. I want to go back what you said. Deal with that one thing, and
absolutely
and
sit
that's what
with
we
it.
have to do. Because let me tell you, I think sometimes what we do is I'm sorry to interrupt before you go on, but I think that is so critical for everybody because sometimes when we have so much going on, it just for me, I know it feel like it's so much, and I just don't think we don't stop to deal with that one thing, and then
Yeah.
we add to it and we
Yeah.
compile more and put more on it and put
Yeah.
more on it. And like you said, and then here sometimes you and I, like 20, 30, 40 years later,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I wish I had done that. So that's why I think it's critical for people to hear that today, because somebody probably is out there right now who just needs to deal with that one thing.
Yeah.
Don't try to cover it with something else. Deal
Mhm.
with that issue so you don't have to deal with that plus the other two or three things that come out of it from
That
you
only
trying to make it right.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree. So, and one thing you said too, you didn't want that responsibility on your parents, which was a very responsible thing as a 16-year-old to feel. How was everything? How long did you stay married? And
It was
was it good?
horrible.
Was it
It was horrible. I was married for 9 years. We fought every
9
holiday.
years still?
9 years.
Really? Wow.
And I tell people well, I started to say it didn't not last because we were too young. It just didn't last because it- we weren't ready. I started to say because he wasn't ready. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. But I
Yeah.
wasn't ready either, but I was
Yeah.
willing to make the marriage work. Okay. And I'm not trying
Yes.
to paint him a bad guy because he is what he is.
Yeah.
And we have a great relationship right now. We have a
Great.
great
Great.
relationship. I
Great.
thank God for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell him he's
Amen to
like
that.
a bad cousin, but anyway.
Exactly. I understand that. I get it. I get it. So yeah, and that's being respectful. But both of you weren't ready, so the marriage
No, no,
ended
no,
up.
no. We were
Yeah.
not ready. Again, we fought I don't know what it was about the holidays. I think he probably just wanted to go and do something without me. So that was it. We get into a fight and that would be it. We make
Yes.
up. And this went on and on. And of course, infidelity came
Yes.
into the relationship. And after so long, I thought, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to live this life anymore. This is not what I want to demonstrate in front of my daughter. I can't
Exactly.
allow you to continue to treat me this way. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Of course. Of course. That
Divorced.
makes sense. So how did your
Mhm.
daughter handle it? Because by that time she at least 9 years or eight
She
to
was
nine
nine.
years old.
She
Yes.
was 9 when we were divorced. She didn't handle it well. And she
Oh.
loved her father. Now, her
Okay.
dad loved her. He
Of
was a good
course.
father to
Of
her.
course.
Yeah. So the divorce was not it was not a good thing. Well, it wasn't a happy time for her.
Yeah.
I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to provide for her. And again, I'm looking at, okay, I failed not only myself and ruined my life, but now I'm about to ruin my daughter's life, which in turn led me to let me just back up a little bit. One of the things that my daughter's father, my first husband, because I've been married and divorced twice, one of the
Mhm.
things that my first husband would tell me is that you're fat. There's that word again. You're fat, you're
Yes.
ugly,
Yes.
and you got a child. Nobody else is going to want you, right? So I'd
Yes.
heard that sermon over and over and
Yeah.
over again. So I believed it. Guess what? The very next person I met after my divorce, the very next person told me that I was beautiful, didn't mind my having a child. And I thought, how lucky could I be? So guess what? I married him.
And so the first one came and told you were beautiful and it didn't matter. You married. Now, let me ask you this. With him saying the things you would have wanted to hear, did you see
Mhm.
the other things about him that maybe said,
No,
no,
I
you
didn't want to see
ignored?
those things. I didn't look for them. I'm telling you, I just felt lucky that someone had come along that saw me, didn't mind my size, didn't mind that I had a child, and he was a nice person. He was a nice person. We had
Yeah.
fun together and all kind of good stuff. But there were so many signs,
So many
so
signs.
many
Yeah.
that I don't even know that I necessarily turned a blind eye.
Hmm.
And I'm still young because okay, I think I was 26, 27. So I was still relatively young
Very young.
when
Yes.
we were married. And I just wanted to make things work. I
Of
just wanted
course.
to make a better life for my daughter.
Yeah, of course.
And I, I just felt that that was an opportunity, that he was a kind person, and he was a
Mhm.
kind person, um, and that we would just be okay. We would be this family. I wanted to make again, still trying to make it
Of course.
but it never was. My daughter was never comfortable in the relationship.
She wasn't.
Um,
And I was going to ask you about her. How does she, interact with him? Because that is
Not very
very
well.
critical.
Yeah, it is. That was never a good relationship,
Yeah.
and I don't fault him for that because I think he wanted it to be or he tried to be, but my daughter just wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, when her dad and I divorced, he wasn't there for a period of time. That
Yes,
really did affect her.
of
Really, really.
course.
He wasn't there for her the way that she needed him to be.
Yes.
So I think that hurt, coupled with the fact that here I am now with a
With a
new
new,
person and I'm spending time with him. So I think, she just felt some kind of way
of
with every right.
course.
Yeah.
Every right. Let me tell you, we
Mm-hmm.
sit here and
Mm-hmm.
think about we're just moving on, but that's why they always say it's so critical. Those children, we got to think about them.
Absolutely.
No, kids can't tell you who to marry, who not to marry, but I do believe, it plays a major part in making that decision.
I was thinking more from a level of being able to provide
Provide, I know,
materialistically, and just to provide things for her and to be able to give her a life that
of course.
where she wouldn't feel subpar to maybe what her friends were experiencing. So
Yes,
that's what I was focused on, not realizing what I was doing to, or what I was allowing to happen
exactly.
in her mental. I didn't
Exactly.
that didn't weigh on me the way that it does now, and the way
Somebody
that I
needs to hear
wish.
that because I promise you, Cynthia, that you were trying to do the right thing for
Mhm.
her.
Yeah,
Any mother who loves their child that much, that's what we tried to do because I remember
absolutely.
even after my divorce, my it was my fear to the finances. I was
Yeah,
wondering how can I still give my daughter this
right,
nice life, and we lived I think in a nice decent neighborhood for us to still be so young at the time,
right.
and all the hopes and dreams I had of what I wanted to do for her, and
Yep,
I got so mad about it that I was determined to give her the best life,
yeah.
and so I can see why you were just trying to do the right thing, space
Or
between
just
her and her
thinking that
father,
I understand her feelings better than she
and she
understands
does
her feelings.
exactly. Yeah. So definitely that marriage, you went into that, and were you still having the dreams of being in journalism or anything?
Oh, I don't no, that wasn't something that I would say necessarily occupied my thoughts, or something that I really saw coming to pass. But then again, even today, I see journalists, or I see reporters, and I have those reflections that I could have done that.
Yeah.
But I don't dwell on it anymore. I won't say that it's something that I still want to do. I mean, look, we got YouTube today. Anybody can be a journalist now. You
Anybody can
got
be a journalist
what's
today.
that? FaceTime.
Um,
Anyway, yeah, anybody can be a
Anybody can
journalist
do
now.
it. Exactly. So I was just
I'm
wondering,
not saying that everyone's a good one, but
of course.
everybody can pick up a phone and send out a message these days.
So being in the relationships, no one had really still tried to encourage you to do that, to try to move into some of the things you wanted to do, or you felt like it was just
I
how was
don't
the
really,
relationship in that
I
second
don't,
marriage at least?
I don't remember that. I don't remember any encouragement along those lines. But then keep in mind, I'm in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I'm working at Southwestern Bell, which was one of the better jobs to have.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I kind of equalized myself just by being there. I kind of made a place for myself, so to speak, or I felt a little bit of value, maybe I could say.
Yes. Yes.
Felt okay, because I could do again, material things, and I have to go back and even impress, and even tell myself how important material things were to
Yes.
me at that time, or how important I thought they were.
Yeah.
Having the house, the car, the clothes,
Hmm.
all those things that right now I don't give a flip about. That's not 100% true, but I mean that
Of
weight,
course.
the weight and the pressure I
That-
put upon myself at that time to have all of that,
Of course.
because that was my value. That's how I
Yes.
valued myself, or that's how I felt like I was as worthy as the next person,
Exactly.
because my friends had that. So,
And a
so
lot of people struggle with that still to this day. Of course, trying to
I'm
keep up with the
struggling now. I drive a
no, not
2006
you.
Honda. I drive a
Yes.
2006 Honda, and I'm happy every time I get in her and she starts. I'm like, yes, girl, let's go.
But that's just finding that joy, that loving life now, and because like you said, it's a weight lifted off of you to keep up with an image. That is such a burden.
It is.
I cannot
It is.
imagine.
It is a burden.
Yes.
And then you overload yourself because you really can't even, I couldn't even afford it. You live above your means. I did that for a long time. I lived above my means.
Yes.
That's a headache. That's a
That is a
daily.
headache waiting to
Yeah.
happen. And before we jump there, I still want to go back and so we can just see how long were you married in the second marriage before we
I was
move
married for
on?
12 years. I
12
was married
years.
for
And
12
see,
years
you
a
had
second.
long periods, regardless if they were good.
I told you it wasn't me, it was them.
Is that you had long periods of being in a
Yeah.
marriage. It's not like it was a year, 2 years. And
Hmm.
even though there's
No.
nothing wrong with that, because if someone realized they had to leave for any reasons, but
And that was the thing. It took me so long to understand, Cynthia, this is not healthy.
it's
This
still
is
not
not
healthy.
good for you. You deserve differently.
What wasn't good in that second marriage? What some of the things that you feel like you can talk about that wasn't good?
What wasn't good in the second marriage?
Because the
First,
first one you did say, y'all, I know y'all, some of the domestic abuse happened in that one. And you said it
yeah.
was could have been mutual a little bit. It's not like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we all know there are all forms of abuse, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
There
so
was physical abuse in the first marriage, but it was a two-way street. I was fighting too.
yes.
Okay. Oh
So the
yeah.
second marriage,
Definitely.
did you experience anything like that?
Well, the second, the instances that happened in the second marriage were, they were serious. I mean, this was nothing to play about. Who wants to admit that they've been beat?
No
You
one.
know, come on, we'll say, girl, he's doing this or that, or she's getting beat. You don't want to be that subject.
No,
You don't want to be that
never.
person. So the first time it happened, of course, I didn't tell anybody. I hid it,
Mhm,
kept it to myself. It happened the second time. I didn't tell anybody.
mhm.
I hid it and moved on. All right. The only reason, let me tell you, and the third time it happened, and it only happened 3 times
Yes.
during the marriage, but they were severe beatings. I mean, it was nothing to just ice over.
Yes.
And each time, now sometimes he would get verbally loud or whatever,
Yes.
but and I remember being frightened when he would do that. But the actual physical encounters happened 3 times. The right before this third event happened, I
Mhm,
had a girlfriend, another friend, who whose husband beat her.
mhm.
And we were talking about that. She was sharing with me what went on. And I told her, I said, listen, and again, this was a very prominent person.
Yes.
I said, you've got to call the police because he's got to know that he can't do that.
Yes.
They were both very prominent people. Said he's got to know that he cannot do that. This is not the way to live, you know. So I'm talking to her and
Yes.
I'm telling her all this, and I'm meaning it. I'm not just blowing smoke, even though I'd gotten beat twice before and hadn't told anybody.
Mhm.
So I impressed that upon her, and we talked and cried and shared, and she agreed that because it was a more common occurrence for her,
Okay.
agreed that the next time she would. Because my thing was, if you expose something, then you can deal with it.
I agree.
Girl, you better be careful what you tell somebody else to do, because I'll be doggone. It was just a few days later when when this third incident happened. And the
Mhm.
problem with us, or what was going on with us, is that I just found out that my husband was not trustworthy. He had lied to me so many times about so many things.
Mhm.
And I kept finding out more and more information, kept finding out things. And it was hurtful, very, very hurtful.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, when we were married, found out that he was actually expecting a child at that time.
Wow.
I believed him. I believed what he told me, that that wasn't true,
Yes.
that the young lady was just saying this, that, or the other. Of course, I believe my
Of
husband.
course.
Um,
Because you
But
don't know the other
then,
people, so you believe in your husband,
no,
right? Yeah.
I didn't know. I
Of
didn't
course.
know her. I've since come to know her
Yeah.
and love her.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Um, sh- um, so that was very hurtful. And of course, he apologizes and we move on.
Hmm.
That was always very difficult for me to deal with.
Of course.
But but before I could even deal with that, there were other incidents that would come up, and I just one thing after the
One
other,
thing
one
after
thing
the
after.
other. And
So,
painful.
oh, absolutely
Yes.
painful,
Yes.
absolutely painful. But then on the other hand, you would look at us and you would think, because we had fun together. He was a fun person. That's my fault. I love to laugh.
Yes.
So, but anyway,
Yes.
I digress. What am I going? What am I
Well, you
trying
were
to get
talking
to?
about your friend that you were advising her.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I had began to suspect that he was involved with someone else,
Yes.
right? I'd never followed up behind my husband,
Hmm.
never browsed through his things.
Hmm.
I respect other people's property,
Yes.
so I never did anything like that.
Hmm.
Whatever he told me, I
Believe.
believed.
Yes.
I began to have this spirit in me that he's not telling the truth.
Hmm.
And it was worrying me. And I hated to always be second guessing what my husband told me.
Hmm.
But nonetheless, I was. And I remember getting up one Saturday morning and I was going, Lord, take this feeling away from me. I don't like feeling like this. I don't like being in this mood that I'm in.
Hmm.
I just wanted that off of me.
Hmm.
And I prayed. I remember I started praying that morning. I said, Lord, if there's nothing for me to be worried about, please take this off me.
Hmm.
Praying that in the morning. I was praying that in the afternoon because I was still feeling that way, like something
Yes.
was going on. I said, Lord, please take this off me. I don't like feeling this way. If there is nothing going on, please take this off me. Well, by the time I was still praying the same prayer in the evening, I thought, well, heck, there must be something going on because it's still on
It's
me.
still on me.
It's still on me. I'm like, okay. Well, remember I said I never looked for things and
Hmm.
never called behind him. That just wasn't anything that I did. So
Yes.
that evening, I did something that I'd never done before. He told me that he was going to be recording
Hmm.
in a studio.
Hmm.
After it had gotten to be late in the evening, he told me he was going to be home at one particular time, and he wasn't. I called the studio, and I'll just make up a name. I said, "Hey Jeff, is my husband? His name? I'll call my husband. What can I name him?
Yes.
Never mind. I won't. I won't even give him a name. But anyway, I said, has my husband been in the studio? And he said, no, he hasn't been in the day. I said, really? He said, no, no one's in the studio today. I said, oh, okay. Thank you. That was that.
Hmm.
Late that night, my husband comes in and I'm trying to play it cool. Girl, I am so uncool. I
Yes.
cannot hide my feelings. Never have been
Neither.
good at
Same
it.
here.
I was trying. I was trying. So I said, so how was rehearsal? And he said, oh, it was good. And I said, oh, okay. And then I asked, I said, well, was this person there? He said, oh yeah. He told me a little bit about that person. I asked about another person. He confirmed that person was there. And then I said, you're lying. I said, you're lying. I called the studio. There was nobody there today.
Yes.
And he says, I threw a phone, and that's when we had the cordless phones. He
Yes.
said that I threw a phone at him. I don't remember throwing the phone. I did have a phone in my hand,
Hmm.
but the next thing I know, I was being beat. I was being severely beaten. And I remember my face being flushed down in the floor, and my daughter happened to be home from college
Oh.
that weekend.
Hmm.
I remember my face being down on the floor. I knew that I'd already been beaten. And I said, my kid is going to see me looking like this. And I really wanted to just die. But then when I thought about her, I thought, I cannot let my baby
Yes.
find me like this. And I
Yes.
began to fight back.
Yes.
Uh, and then I think I don't know what happened, but he stopped. He stopped.
Hmm.
And then it came back to me what I told my friend about calling the police. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, no. And I don't like being hypocritical.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. And I just remembered how I had sat
Uh-huh.
and spoke to her,
Mhm.
told her what to do. So I knew I had to call the police. So I did.
Yeah.
I called it because it was that severe. I
It was
called the
that severe.
police. It was still in the house. I called the police and I hung up.
You
I hung up.
did.
Well, I
Mhm.
didn't know at that time you don't call 911 and hang up because they will call you back.
Yes.
And she did. She called back and she said, and did someone there call 911? I said, yes. She said, is there a problem? I said, yes. She said, what is it? I said, domestic violence. She said, is there a weapon in the home? My husband was standing, I could see him. And I said, yes, there are weapons in the home. He said, she asked me, oh, I can't remember exactly what she asked me, but anyway, I remember
Yes.
asking him, I said, do you have a gun on you? And he said, you called the police on me? And I felt so bad. Oh my God, I felt so bad. He repeated, he said, you called the police on me?
Mhm.
And I wanted to just die.
Yeah.
I said, what was I supposed to do? I
Exactly.
asked him, what was I supposed to do? And he left. The police did come, and
Mhm.
they took a report, and they said they would look for him for X number of hours. I don't remember how. They asked me where I thought he might be, and I shared,
Mhm.
and that was that. Well, so my daughter comes in later on, and I sat and I talked to her, and I explained to her that, that was unacceptable. I
Yes.
don't think at that time I told her about the other incidents.
Mhm.
So the next day, and this part is always weird to me. I get it confused because it seems like that was on a Friday night,
Mhm.
and I could swear it was the next day that I went and filed for a divorce. And the reason I say that's kind of strange is because that's a Saturday,
Yeah.
and generally attorneys' offices are closed on a Saturday. But anyway, I the
Exactly.
next day anyway, I filed for a divorce immediately after that because
Wonderful.
I was just at the end.
Of
That was
course.
just it.
No, the most dangerous time in a woman's life is when she's leaving. So, did you have that fear?
That may have just a lot to do with my personality because I wasn't afraid because that night I changed.
Right. That's
That night
right.
I was a different person.
And I think it was
Now,
your probably with
that's
your
not to
daughter being
say
there
absolutely.
added to it.
That's oh, and another thing I did. Let me tell you what I did. Just in case, I called my girlfriend. I called my girlfriend and I said, I need you to come over and I need you to take pictures of me. I said, I need you to take pictures. I said, because if you don't, I'm afraid this never would have happened.
And why would you say it
So
that way? You afraid it would it
it never would have happened just like the other incidents didn't
yes.
happen. And I remember I went to work that Monday. Now the bruises, of course, got worse.
Yeah.
By the time I went to work that Monday,
It was even
I was
you
a
had the
lot of
purple
different
it was
colors.
showing.
But I went to work and they were like, "What happened to you?" I said, "I got beat." I
You
said, "I
told the
got beat
truth.
up."
That can bring on a level of shame as well, even though you didn't tell your friends. So there was some level of shame. What made you still go to
Yeah.
work though? Because most people would want to hide it.
Well, number I went to work because I had to go to
What?
work. No, okay, let's go back to me being responsible. I'm a responsible
Yes, you
person.
said that earlier. Yeah.
I went to work. I had work to do,
Yeah.
and
That makes sense.
I wasn't ashamed. I hadn't done it. I had not done
I
anything.
agree.
I had not done
That
anything.
is a
And I
good
remember a
point to say
conversation.
again, Cynthia. You had not done
Yeah.
anything wrong. I'm glad you said that.
And my ex said to we had a conversation sometimes afterwards, and he said, "You went to work to make me look bad." No, I didn't. I didn't
No.
go to work to make you look bad. I went to work to make me better.
Yes.
I had because I've got to live now,
Amen to
and you're
that.
not a part of my living now. I've got to do what I've got to be me. I've got to
Yes.
do what I need to do. I've
Yes.
got to be responsible. So, yeah,
That is
I went.
so I don't want to reiterate again what you said, but I think that spoke to me when you said I had to go first of all. I had not done anything wrong. And I
Yeah,
applaud you at that moment at least for making that decision. And it maybe was not maybe it's not good that your daughter was home, but I think that helped a lot of in a lot of ways as well. You're not
yeah. Well, I had to face a lot of things. I had to face what told my girlfriend. I had to
exactly.
show. I had whatever I did, and my daughter was able to see that was going to give her the right to do the same
And you
thing.
could not
If
let
I'd
that.
accepted that and hid it, it would have told her it's
It's
okay.
okay.
You God, I pray that she never finds herself in a situation like that. But she could have looked back and said, "Well, my mama did this, that, or didn't do this,
Yes.
that, or maybe I should do." No, don't stand for anyone mistreating. I
Amen
mean,
to
that's
that.
ain't any. Don't mistreat anybody. Treat people
Just
right.
treat people right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you are okay and came up out of that sense.
I mean, I wish him well.
Yes. Since the marriage ended after 12 years, then you were moving on into your life. Had you already moved after that divorce is when you moved to Atlanta, you said, to be closer to your daughter? What let's
Well, yeah, that was a few years later. That divorce was actually in 98. Well, we separated in
in
98. The
98?
divorce was final in 9. Yeah, so that's been more than 20 years ago.
Yes.
What? Yeah,
More than
years ago now.
so and at the time you were still at AT&T.
I was still at AT&T. Yeah, I was still at AT&T. At that, I was still at AT&T, and I ran into another kind of situation.
Mhm.
I had two of my nephews that I was blessed to have because they were a blessing to me, and they are my sons now.
Yeah.
Um, two of my nephews from Chicago came to live with me shortly after that.
Mhm.
Here I was now, divorced, single, trying to make ends meet, and I have two teenage boys in the house that I'm trying to now
Yeah.
raise. I'm working full time. I'm living in Plymouth, Arkansas, but I'm working in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Mhm.
It's about an hour's drive away, a little less than an hour's commute away. And that was my primary job. So I'm doing that 9 to 5. At that time, I was also had become a hairstylist. So I'm working in the hair salon. After I leave work at AT&T, 5 o'clock, get home 6 o'clock. I'm in the hair salon from about 6 until 10 or 11, whenever. And then I've got my two boys there to attend to who are staying in trouble at
Yeah.
school. So I'm also having to leave work, go to school, go to court, or go
Mhm.
somewhere to see
Mhm.
about them and what trouble they're
Yeah.
into. And I'm also working at the radio station on the weekends from 6 a.m., 6 to 10 a.m. I was working three
Yes.
jobs. I was in a cycle. It was tough.
It was
It was
tough.
a tough time.
So what made you get into at the time with radio?
I always loved radio. Even when I talked about being in journalism, I used to dream of being. I remember there was a gentleman when I was growing up, Michael Morgan. He had one of the best voices I ever
Mhm.
heard. And unfortunately, Michael passed away years ago. But I used to listen to his voice, and it was amazing. I loved radio. Always wanted to be a radio announcer. And a dear friend of mine, Kim, introduced me. I do believe Kim was the one that introduced me to radio because she was there. She was an announcer. And so anyway, that's how I got in. She introduced me to some people, um, Brian Castle and Jackie Harris. They were, I think Jackie on the radio station. Brian was managing there, and I was able to get in, and that was I had to do that because that's something I'd always wanted
Of
to do,
course.
and I loved
Of
it
course.
every minute. I don't care what had gone on at AT&T from 9 to 5 or how long I've been in the shop. I was ready
You
to
was
go
ready to do that.
to that radio station at 6 in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays. I loved it.
So
I would do that today if I were given
you
the
hear that,
opportunity.
everyone out
Love
there.
radio.
If anyone, if this goes into the elements of people,
Girl.
she's still ready to do it today. What made you not pursue it? It was just still, I know you were raising your nephews
Well,
and
I did. I did. I was in radio for a little bit
Mhm.
there, and I worked with an entertainment college in Little Rock,
Mhm.
Arkansas for a little bit. We also had a radio program. It's a community
Yeah.
radio where I had a segment where I interviewed
Okay.
new artists to new music
Mhm.
artists. So I did that for a little bit, but life. I don't even
Life.
remember. I think the station in Pine Bluff closed, and the one in Little Rock yeah, that went by the wayside as well. Not the
Mhm.
station, but the company that I was with. So
Okay. Let me ask you this: with you've been doing all of that, which is a lot, raising two young men. Uh,
mhm.
your daughter was already in school and a little bit older. Okay,
Right,
raising
she's already in
the
her
two young
house.
men, working basically three jobs. So how was Cynthia all of that, all of that, were you still having the weight issue? Would you consider, being overweight? And was that still a thing to you at the time, or that was not in your
I was
mind?
still having that today. Girl, I got that like right now, real time.
No, she does
Okay.
not. Everybody. I mean, in her mind, it's her feeling. So, okay, it's valid.
I'm better. I'm gonna say
Yes.
that though, because July 31st, I spoke with a friend who a, had a really bad health incident come about in their life, and that day, July 31st,
Hmm.
2020, I started doing things differently.
Wonderful.
Before then, I actually started because I have several sisters who passed away from disease. I'm the last
Oh,
sister.
really?
And I realized that, listen, sweetheart, you are next in line. And I would not call it a miracle. So, get it
Get it
together.
together.
So I really started thinking that way um, before my last sister passed away, because I remember right before she passed away, I remember I was wherever I was in my kitchen,
Mhm.
wherever, and I heard something say, it let me know that my sister was going to pass.
Oh,
It
really?
just I just knowing that my sister was going to
Hmm.
pass. And if you don't get it together, you will too. It was not a couple of weeks later that my sister passed away. And I, oh, and even after that, I made some changes, but I wasn't doing enough. And it wasn't until this friend shared with me their life experience, their health experience, that really did um, really caused them to have a wake up call. Their story, because I know this person had just disappeared for a
Yeah.
while and I didn't know where, didn't hear from them. And anyway, when I found out and they shared their story with me and how it affected them, it was sobering for me. That day I weighed, and I weighed 286 that day, 286 pounds. I think I'm about 5'5", 5'5" and a half. Uh, there was another change. I changed that day. I got really serious about it, and
Wonderful.
I've weighed myself every day. People say, Cynthia, you don't have to weigh every day, but for me, for a period of time, I did. I had to weigh
Mhm.
every day, and I did that just up until about a month ago. Now I don't weigh every day now because I don't have to.
Yes.
But for a period of time, the scale was my friend. It was my
A lot of us.
accountability partner. Social media, because I post on social media, and people really encourage me there, and I appreciate that. And sometimes I feel like I have to keep doing this even when maybe I don't feel like it. I'll think about someone that I've spoken with, and I talk to people all during the week.
Exactly.
All during the week,
Talking about
I'm in
that.
contact with someone, and so I feel like it's bigger than
Of
you. It's not
course.
just you.
Everyone out there, she does post. She posts her pictures. She works out and she looks amazing. I promise you. You have to go to her page and you would sit there and like, what is she talking about? Because the lady is beautiful.
I'm not paying you for this, Arlene.
And 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 not to
I
say,
ain't got no money.
I don't ask you for none. Are you becoming more of that health, wellness, and advocate?
I pray so. I pray so.
Because you post the,
Yeah.
I would love the pictures when you would post your little pretty pictures of the food you're eating and to make beans look like they look good.
I think my grits and greens, I think that's what got people the most is when I posted grits and greens. I'm like, doesn't everybody eat grits
No,
and
no,
greens?
I am a Southern girl. I am the one who knows grits. Okay.
I'm a Southern
Yeah, I
girl.
guess so.
Arkansas,
Yes,
I'm a Southern
I am
girl.
a grits
Yes.
connoisseur. So the greens, I've seen that someplace else, but I want those. I love greens. Keep them separate for me.
Yes.
And I don't know if we go that on grits, that sugar versus salt thing.
Who put sugar on grits?
I think some of, look, I'm not gonna talk about some of my people out there, but some of those California
Girl, I'll
people,
talk about them.
uh,
Quit putting that sugar on
no
them
sugar on.
grits.
I'm with you.
Now,
Eat the
Arlene,
oatmeal with the sugar.
yeah, but anyway, I found out that sugar and salt are not my best friends anyway.
Really,
So
really.
I deal very, very sparingly with both of
Yeah.
them.
I want to talk about the part where you mentioned earlier, and we're just gonna touch on it. You said it was a spirit of
Mhm.
suicide. Did it have to come with the weight issue? Was it the life just life happens that makes you kind of feel that? Tell me a little bit about
Life,
that.
life. Yeah, the spirit of suicide. Okay, that that happened in 2003. Okay, so remember I worked for AT&T. I was this, that, or the other, and I felt like I was okay. I had the house on the hill, had the cars, had all of that. But I'm killing myself because I'm working. I'm working around the clock, literally. I'm killing myself. And one morning, I woke up. Well, let me say this: when I grew up. We had a very, very modest home, and I mean extremely modest. I would say poor, but I didn't know we were poor. I didn't
Yes.
have that knowing because I had everything I needed, and I came from a loving family.
Exactly.
So, but I remember that we had very little. But anyway, so when I grew up, and this in this second marriage, and I was able to get this house on the hill, the cars, the diamonds, all that kind of stuff, out all that
Mhm.
going, that defined me. That made me worth it. That gave me value. Gave me worth. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Such a lie. But anyway, that's the
Yes, the
mindset,
mindset.
right?
Yes.
So when after the divorce, and initially I left, I was
Yes.
gone, but he left the house. So when he left, I went back, and I'm trying to maintain this house that I can't afford now. I can't
I
afford
hear
it.
you.
I can't afford the car. No, I can't afford things, but I'm trying. I'm trying to hold on. And I remember I woke up one Saturday morning. I woke up and I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm moving. I woke up that Saturday morning. I said it was early, and I was on my way to the radio
Hmm.
station to cut a commercial, actually. There was a gentleman who had come to my home, because I used to have parties and all that kind of
Hmm.
thing. So
Hmm.
he knew about, he loved the house. He always asked about the house. And he worked out of town. And I maybe see him a couple times a year or
Hmm.
whatever. We talked sparingly, just friends,
Yes.
right? So, anyways, when I saw him, we stopped and we talked that morning because he was in town. So it was good to be able to see. He was like,
Hmm.
hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And of course, he asked about the house. I said to him, I said, listen, and I'll call him um, Bob. I said, look, Bobby, if you want that house, you can have it. He said, what are you talking about? I said, you can have it because I'm moving.
Hmm.
He said, where are you moving to? I said, Little Rock. Arlene, that's the first time any of that had come out of my
Really?
mouth. I hadn't given thought to that.
Yes.
It was born right then and there.
Yes.
He said, where are you moving to? I said, Little Rock. He said, Cynthia, quit playing because people don't know when to believe me or
Yes.
not. I said, I'm not kidding. I said, I promise you, I'm moving. And I knew when it was coming out, even though it was the first time it was
Yes.
coming out, I knew it was true
Uh-huh.
too. And I remember beginning to feel free.
Wow.
Like, ooh, because I could see that he was interested. Long story, that's the person that has the house. He got the
Wow.
house. And I remember people asked me, why didn't you tell me you were moving? I didn't know until I
That until
was.
that day, you just
I
made the
knew you
decision
were
to just
selling that
move.
house. Yeah. It was like, why didn't you tell me you were selling your house? I didn't know until I knew. And it was already done. It was just that simple.
Exactly. And that just
And so
took a relief off of
when
you, of
people would
course.
come by the house, they would, for whatever reason, and maybe they compliment on something in the house. I was like, you want it, you can have it. And I'm like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, you can have it because I'm moving. So that's how the story about me moving began to come out. It's just if you drive by, I told you, you see something, because people were always making comments about, one thing or the other. So it's like, if you commented on it, it was
It was
yours.
yours.
You can have it. Shortly after, it probably was not 6 weeks later,
Mhm.
I was moved.
Wow.
I moved to Little Rock, and I can't remember how many square feet. I don't know, 3,000. It had a nice size home there, but I remember moving to this small
Mhm.
apartment. I always think it was 900 square feet. It may have been 11. I don't know,
Mhm.
but I remember it was small. It was 2 bedrooms, small
Yes.
bedrooms, right? And it's in a nice area, but it was a small apartment. And I remember back in my house in Pine Bluff, I used to get up and I would walk through the house. And I'm thinking back to where I grew up and those humble beginnings, and how the Lord had blessed me to now be in this house, on the hill and all this kind of stuff. And I would walk through and I would just thank God. I would just thank
Yes.
Him for blessing me and for just being amazed that he took care of this little girl, this little fat country girl,
Mm-hmm.
and just being
Yes.
grateful,
Yes.
right? Do that at the house in Pine Bluff. And then when I moved to Little Rock, and I remember thinking, yeah, that maybe this was embarrassing, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, just doing it. And I remember when I woke up that first morning, that being there, and I woke up and I walked through that apartment, that little part, and I was giving the same thanks that I'd given in the house in Pine Bluff. And I said, Lord, I thank
Mm-hmm.
you. You're still keeping
Yes.
me. It's a shorter
Yes.
walk, but it's the same walk of Thanksgiving. So that's that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're talking about the spirit
Spirit of
of
suicide. Yes.
spirit of suicide, how that comes about. Okay, so this was in
Mm-hmm.
2003 after I moved into the apartment
Mm-hmm.
there. Keep in mind now, I've been married all my
Mm-hmm.
life. Been married all my
Yes.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's the divorce. I was divorced in 98, 99. This was 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I had another relationship right after that. Didn't get married, but a gentleman who was my friend until the day he died.
Yeah.
A very dear friend to
Yes.
me. He passed away a couple of years ago. But even that, I cut that relationship off. I had to cut that relationship off because as close as he and I were, there was a form of, and I would tell him, I said, listen, either you are abusive or you're verbally abusive or you're
Yes.
disrespectful. And neither is acceptable for me. And
Wonderful.
so I cut that relationship off. Right? So then I'm in Little Rock now and I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm by myself. And I remember just being so sad,
Mm-hmm.
being so, so very sad. And I lay down one night and I couldn't rest. I got up and I started thinking that I was going to kill myself
Yeah.
because I was just tired of fighting, trying to just live.
Yeah.
I was just tired.
Exactly.
And I remember thinking, I just don't want to play
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
My daughter's doing good now. She's an adult. She's in an okay place. And I just wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to die so badly. So I remember I thought about it that day, and then I thought, don't be silly, don't do it. So I didn't. You brush it
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
but it weighed on me. It weighed on me very, very
Mm-hmm.
heavily until I can't remember. This is so strange, but I can't remember what the incident was, but I remember thinking, I really can't do this life thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really can't do it anymore. I'm out. And I remember that day and I was crying, crying, crying. And I was crying because of how this thing that I was gonna do was gonna affect my
Of
daughter.
course.
And and I felt so badly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, God, I love her more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling so badly because I'm thinking, you love her and you know how this will affect her, and yet you're gonna do it anyway. And I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so bad because I didn't feel like I was I don't know. I wasn't
Of
enough
course.
to prevent that type of pain on my daughter. So that's the reason I was
Yes.
crying, not because the fact that I was going to commit suicide. I had made my mind up. I was set on
Yes.
that. And Arlene, this is where I'm retarded because
Mm-hmm.
I was going to commit suicide, but it was after 9 p.m. Everybody that knows me know I go to sleep. I got to
Yes.
sleep.
Yes.
So it was too late for me to commit suicide. I said, I'll
Let
do it
me
in the morning.
let me tell you what we're not.
I got,
You cannot make y'all. I tell you, she loves to laugh,
I'm telling you the
but
truth. I'm telling you the truth. I was like, okay, but it's too late for me to do it now. I gotta go to sleep first. I gotta be rested up when I do this.
thank God for
I
that
should
because that helped.
have said,
We know this is not funny, everybody, but I'm laughing at Cynthia because Cynthia and she's laughing herself because she knows she is this person who goes to bed early. I know that too from
yep,
just a few times, and so you made a
yep,
decision not to because you like.
I wasn't gonna do it that night.
That night.
I was
Thank
so
God.
sad that night. I was so sad that night.
Yeah.
And so and I remember I got in bed and I was laying down. I was crying. I was crying. I was crying. I was sobbing. And I, Arlene, as plain as I'm looking at my hand right now, I was laying in the bed and I felt something come and get in the bed with me.
Mm,
I felt the leg come up behind my leg. I felt an arm go underneath me. I never budged. I never blinked. I felt an arm come around me
mm.
and it just held me. It held
Oh
me.
my God.
I remember, and my tears dried up and I went to sleep. I
Oh my
remember
goodness.
that. So that happened, and I didn't commit suicide. Oh, cry, yeah, I
Thank
didn't
God.
commit suicide. I'm here talking.
Amen to
So,
that.
but from that time on, every every day, all day long, I had thoughts of suicide.
Mm,
Every day, I still had. Well, the thoughts had actually just really taken a hold, taken root.
yeah.
Every day, I thought about committing suicide, and it was just. I mean, I any situation I would look at, I would wonder how I could take myself out. I would just, it could be a car, it could be, and then anyway,
Yes.
it's going to be the enemy, regardless
Yeah.
to
I agree.
what your
Okay.
situation is. It's always the enemy. I mean, that's what he does. He wants to see us dead.
Exactly.
He wants to take us out.
Yeah.
And I remember. So fast forward 15 years, literally, because this was I can't remember, 2018, 2019.
Mhm.
I was going to a friend of mine had told me that night in Bible study, we were going to be, it was going to come from Psalms. And I love the Psalms. I love the Psalms. So I remember rushing to get to church that night, Friendship Baptist Church, Duluth, Georgia.
Yes.
That's Ronald Morning,
Yes.
Ronald Bowens.
Wonderful.
I remember going into going into church that night, and I was anxious to hear the study on the Psalms.
Hmm.
I sat down, and it didn't take me long to realize that the study that night was about angels. I'm thinking, angels? Okay, I read about them, I heard about them, but
Yeah.
I had never spent much time thinking about angels,
Hmm.
and so I was a little bit frustrated. But I tuned in,
Hmm.
and heard the teaching on angels. And after the teaching that night, after Pastor Bowens was done with the teaching that night, I turned to Deacon Williams, who was sitting behind me, and I love him.
Yes.
I love Deacon Williams, and he was my Sunday school teacher here in Georgia. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I turned to Deacon Williams and I said, Deacon Williams, what's the point of angels? I said, we have the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit guides us and directs us. Why do we need angels? What's so significant about these angels?
Mhm.
He said, yes, the Holy Spirit does guide you, and you know, um, he said, but it doesn't fight for you.
Ooh.
He said your angel will fight for you.
Ooh.
That took me back to that night.
Mhm.
That took me back. I immediately thought back to that night when I knew I was gonna kill myself,
Yes.
and that
That
angel
angel.
came and saved me and fought for
Yes.
me, you know, fought for my life
Oh my
and
goodness.
saved me.
That
Yeah.
and that
So
brought you
so
back.
now I respect angels.
Yeah. But and you know what too? So to that point, when I think of angels, my sister gave me, and this is someone at her job, where she used to work for
Uh-huh.
her, and she told her years ago, this her friend told her, she and her husband was about to go on vacation, and their children were of age at that time, and they were leaving them for
Hmm.
the very first time, home, while they went on
Hmm.
vacation, just the two of them. And
Hmm.
she said when they were pulling off, her husband said, "Angels, I command you to take post." And ever since, and
Amen.
my sister shared that thing with me, every
Yeah.
time me and my daughter go somewhere or my daughter walks out this house, it's angels, I
Yeah.
command you to take post. That is so profound. Your angels will fight for you. Oh,
Yeah. He said
and
your angels
that's
will
what
fight
that
for you
angel did for you that night. Because he
that
was,
night.
oh my,
And shortly after that, I was in a class on one Monday night. And somehow
mhm.
we were talking about the suicides. And I shared that story with them, right? And I said, y'all, don't worry, don't start looking at me funny. I said, this has been on me for 15 years. I'm not gonna commit
Amen. Thank
suicide.
God.
I'm just sharing that weight has been
Lift.
on me
Yes.
all this time. The enemy does that.
He,
The enemy, we give up on ourselves, but the enemy never
he
gives up
doesn't.
on us. I mean, he always, the enemy has hope for
Don't
us.
he does his job. Like we were just talking, someone else and I were talking. He knows our triggers. He knows us enough to know what's gonna get our mind to like, okay, woe unto me. He knows the things
Yeah.
that we say to ourselves, and he, if allowed, he will get in that mind and he knows how to work those things against us.
That Monday night in that class on that Monday night, I shared that experience with them. But then again, I assured them,
Mhm.
I know, and I know now that that'll never happen.
Yes.
I won't.
Thank God
I'm not
today.
going to deliberately take
Thank
my
God
life.
you've been
Yeah, that's
delivered from that.
well, I was delivered from. I'm not going to do it, but the spirit was still there. The spirit
Gotcha.
lived there. The spirit. Well, the spirit was constantly attacking me. Like I said, literally
Literally.
every day, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd pray, I think about suicide.
Yeah.
I'd go to church, I think about suicide. It didn't matter. It was just there. It was just there.
Yes.
That was on a Monday night. I remember getting up that Tuesday morning. I was in the kitchen preparing something, and I was like, now I wear earrings. I gotta have earrings
Yes.
on, or I feel like I'm missing an arm.
Yes.
So I was in the kitchen and I was doing what I was making something to drink,
Mhm.
and I thought, how something seems out of place. So I
Of
started looking
course.
around the kitchen, and I was okay. I always go glasses, earrings. So I'm like, so I'm checking. I got all these things, and I'm like, what is something is not right, and it was bugging me so bad. And I
Yeah.
stopped and I said, okay, something is out of order, and I got to figure out what it is. I
Yes.
mean, it was that intense.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, I haven't had a suicidal thought.
Amen to that. That would, and that almost felt like it was a part of your routine, of course, for you to think.
It was, I'm telling you,
Wow.
it was just there.
Yes.
It was just always, and I thought, I haven't. And then I started to try to think, girl, people are crazy. Well, I'm crazy. I started trying to have one like, okay, where are you?
Yeah.
I'm missing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was
And I
something that's been
couldn't
on you
make
for
it happen.
years.
I was
So
like, oh my God. When I tell you it was a literal weight
wow.
that was lifted away from me. Because I was looking for it. I was trying to find what it was. It was that heavy. It
Wow.
was that heavy in my being.
Yes.
And I haven't had that weight since. Yeah.
Wow. From that feeling that feeling that way, you never did
Mhm.
try going to talk to know anyone else. You did it, of course, in church and the word, and you never actively tried to
All I
seek.
can tell you is that I knew I wasn't going to do it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
knew. Okay. Now, I'm not against anybody getting help because I've had help before. When I was going through all these things, and
Yes.
even when I thought I was going to lose custody of my daughter, which I did, I had to seek therapy,
Yes. Good.
seek therapy at that time. So I'm an advocate for whatever is going to help you.
Of course.
Yeah, but I didn't have to do it. When I tell you, I knew I wasn't going to do it.
So we'll move in, I know, sake of time, and I want to go back to the point where you had mentioned that it's a good friend of yours, and you said you didn't know if it was he felt like it was abuse or disrespect, but you were not going to accept neither. What do you think happened for you to get to that mindset to say, even though he's a good friend, but you just know the difference now to look for both? How do you think you mature so much to just say, no, not you won't do this, or if it's disrespect, you won't do that either? Because Cynthia would, I'm not going to accept that. How do you feel like you get to that point, or how someone can get to that point?
When you decide that you are valuable,
Yeah. Hmm.
when you decide that you're worthy,
Hmm.
and you know that you were made for more, you were meant for more.
Yes.
CeeLo Green says something, your life has purpose. That's what I was going to say. And I know sometimes we can overuse that,
True.
purpose, but you do. Our lives are with purpose. And CeeLo Green said something, this may be a bit off, whatever, but it impressed me. It made an impact upon me when he said this. He said, Everyone's life has purpose. Everybody's life. I don't care who you name, everyone's life has purpose,
Yeah.
even if their purpose is to show you what you should not do,
Yes.
what you should not be.
Hmm.
I know that I have value
Hmm.
in this life. I know that I do. I know God didn't make junk. I know that God had purpose for allowing breath to come into my body.
Hmm.
I started to say maybe falling in love with yourself, but I think it's really falling in love with the one who loved you first.
Mm.
And so I think it's the love that I have for him and just seeing how he continued to keep me, to love me, to provide for me.
Yes.
I just want to be the best me. Just want to be the best me
Yes.
for whatever his purpose is in my life.
And that makes so much sense to me because like they always say, if you're in your if you're a Christian out there and you're walking in your faith, when we think about what he's done for us, they always say we need to, if we can just seek him more than we seek anything else and to know what he did even with our faults and our mistakes and he still loves us. To me that value of how he sees us, it's like, okay, I should see some of what he sees in me because he sees what
Yes,
I can be. I know he sees me the way he wants me to be, of course. I
right,
do believe that. And then I
right.
think if we can just truly seek him first, we'll find
Yeah,
ourselves and we find that
absolutely.
true value, like you're saying. We're going to go back over to the health and wellness side of you and what you're
Hmm.
doing there because you love that. You seem like it's something you love. Do you love
Do.
it? Let me ask.
I do. I really, really do.
Mhm.
And, it pains me when I see so many young people now
Yeah.
who are not just overweight or obese,
Mhm.
but morbidly obese
Yes.
at such young ages.
Yes. Mhm.
And the health risk they're setting, their lifestyle is setting them up for.
Yes.
And granted, I know there may be people who have, health conditions that whereby they can't help it.
Yes.
For for those of us who sometimes just overeat for reasons to comfort ourselves, or we just
Yes.
take things to the extreme.
Mhm.
My heart bleeds for not only children but for young women and men too. I mean, you got we've
Yeah.
I used to always be I was always the biggest person.
Yeah.
Always.
Mhm.
Whatever the setting was, I was always the biggest person.
Exactly.
And I always just wanted to be normal. I
Yeah.
just wanted to fit in and be normal. And it's like, never find that spot. And now I always thought if I could just be normal, I would feel so much better
Yes.
about myself.
Mhm.
And now sometimes I'm in a setting and maybe there's someone who's, let's just say, morbidly obese, and my heart just breaks because I'm wondering how are you feeling?
Mhm.
What is your health like?
Mhm.
And but then I have to be conscious. But girl, let me tell you, let me digress a little bit. I remember one time I lost weight. This was years ago, and this is Carolyn Cherry, a friend of mine. I lost weight, and
Mhm.
Carolyn Cherry she was trying to lose weight, but I lost weight, and I was like, girl, all you gotta do is this, that, or the other, and honey, it'll come off, and you just gotta do this. I was just preaching. I was just,
Yes.
girl, I probably had lost 10 pounds, but anyway, I gained that 10 and 20 more back.
Yes.
And Carol was looking at me like, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, you want to say that again? But anyway, so what I'm though I want to talk to
Mhm.
people, I only want to talk to people who want to hear,
Exactly.
because and I don't have a magic pill,
Mhm.
a magic solution.
Yeah.
This is a daily challenge. This is a daily fight.
Exactly.
It is a daily fight.
Exactly. That's
Some
it
days
is.
I win,
It is.
some days I get punched,
Mhm.
but it's constant. And it's also because I'm not saying that whatever is off limits to me. I can eat whatever I want to eat.
Yes.
It's learning how much, it's learning not to overdo it.
Mhm.
Different people have different lifestyles,
Uh-huh.
which would require different routines. So I couldn't dare just put out a generic routine for people to go
Exactly.
by. We're
Exactly.
all different.
I agree. And what I love what you do when you like when would see your page, shows people that it's a real thing. We know trying to lose weight. I've done it. We know trying to lose weight is not easy. So going through the days, like you say, some days you get punched, some days, it's just, it is a hard thing. And so with you being so transparent, people will sit there and you listen to people who saying, I've been through this. I hope to see more of what you do. I remember you did something about, it was in 2019 when
Yeah.
you had your little cute little t-shirt on. And what is the name of
Oh,
it?
oh, we won't wobble always.
We won't wobble always. Tell me, what is we won't wobble always?
Let me tell you how We Won't Wobble Always was born. One day, a girlfriend and I were on our way out to lunch. This is when I worked in Little Rock, Arkansas. We came outside of our building, and I saw this reflection. My girlfriend is like me, she at the time we were both, wobbling. All right,
Yeah.
right. We come outside of the building, and I see this reflection, and I thought, ooh. And I'm talking about the lady, not the reflection
Yes.
of the lady that I saw in the building, right?
Uh-huh.
And I said, me in my mouth, I said something, just being funny or whatever. And I was like, you need to slow down, honey, or something. I don't know what I said, but just some little off kilter
Yeah.
thought like that I'm, maybe share with my girlfriend. And something caused me to stop and look at the reflection again because the reflection was mimicking me
Yes.
because it was
It
me.
was you.
And I was like, oh my God, oh no, oh my God. And that's where We Won't Wobble Always was born. And I told my girlfriend, I said, Rhonda, we are not, we gotta stop. We gotta do things different.
Yes. Yes.
And so we were on our way to lunch. I said, let's go to Jason's Deli. We're gonna have a salad. But nonetheless, we go to Jason's. I have a salad that's piled 2 feet high, salad dressing, everything that ain't supposed to be on there
Yes.
is on there. It's just ridiculous,
Yes.
But so that's where We Won't Wobble Always was born. And then I used to go back, and there was another young lady that I worked with, Jean Burks. Jean is an artist. She could just draw the funniest things. So I would write these little cartoons, and Jean would draw pictures to them.
Yes.
So it was funny. That was just a little thing that went on for a little while, but I didn't really respect it for what it was.
Yes.
Some God gives us things all the
Mm-hmm.
time. He's always speaking to us, working on our behalf. He's always has something going on, but we're not always smart enough to recognize what he's doing
Exactly.
when he's doing it. So I did the little cartoon strips for a little bit, and that was that kind of stashed it away. Then when I moved to the Atlanta area, it came back to me again. The Lord spoke to me, and I understood that everyone has a wobble effect. And that's a
Amen.
term that I use in my description in We Won't Wobble Always. Everyone has a
Yes.
wobble effect where mine might be gluttony or obesity, someone else's might be drug addiction, sexual addiction,
Yes.
whatever. Everybody has a quote unquote vice
Yes.
that they deal with. So that's the story behind We Won't Wobble Always. It's not just about being
No.
overweight. It's about being overweight or weighted down, rather, with
Yes.
whatever your vice is.
Yes.
And I think what you're referring to is when I started 40 till breakthrough
Yes.
out of We Won't Wobble. That's
Mm-hmm.
when and that falls under We Won't Wobble Always, because that's when you make this commitment to the Lord. It's just between you and the Lord. For 40 days, God, I'm going to commit to you. During those 40 days, 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
each day, during 1 hour of the day, you commit to 40 minutes of physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I don't care, you can be in good shape, but still just be physically active, whether that's gardening, working out, cleaning your house, I don't care, but just 40 minutes of physical activity,
Mm-hmm.
um, 40 seconds of praise. You got 40 days, 40 hours, 40 minutes, and 40 seconds of praise.
Yes.
And also to complete that hour during the 40 hours where you got your 40 minutes of physical activity, you also commit 10 minutes to study, reading the word.
Yeah.
And I say that because that's where I draw my strength from. Wherever
Exactly.
you draw yours from, go for it.
Exactly.
10 minutes studying the word, and then 10 minutes studying that thing that troubles you. Do your research. Everybody has the internet at your fingers now.
Yes.
You can study, you can research, you can learn, you can expand your horizon of information.
Yes.
You can find that out. So study, find out what find out about what your vice is
Yes.
and understand why it has a hold on you and how you can put that thing in order.
Hmm.
So anyway, as we won't wobble always 42 breakthrough and whatever else pops in my head.
Exactly. So, and so my thing with the, which I love both of those, and that's what people need to realize too. Sometimes find that thing, and it don't take. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but it don't take 2 hours to just read the Bible. Find that thing that you're dealing with, and like you said, even for those 10 minutes, or if you do the 40, you say it's 40 to break. You said
40 till breakthrough. In the Bible, anytime it made a
40.
reference to the number 40, at the end
Mhm.
of that period, there was always a
Yes,
breakthrough.
I love
So that's this 40 till
yeah.
breakthrough.
Again, when you go back even to the we won't wobble always, and like you said, wobble can be anything, whatever that vice is that you're dealing with, because we won't be on drugs always, or we won't be depressed always, or we won't be
Exactly.
miserable or lonely, feel like always. It just you have to do the work. So, but you wrote that that memoir, but why did you never turn it into a full book? Because that is so important for everybody.
Hold on, let me answer your question, Arlene. Let me answer your question. Because I'm still wobbling.
You- You're
That's
not.
why.
We don't have. You still have so many lessons, and you've learned, and the 40 to break. You have lessons to still tell people right now. You say you're still wobbling because you're harder on yourself, and you've come through. You've come through, Cynthia. You're not still in. You've come through stuff,
Amen.
so you're not still
Amen.
in some of the stuff.
Thank you,
We
Lord.
won't wobble always. I'm not. We as we live every day, we will wobble a little bit. So that's your book will be a continuation, but it won't be because you've wobbled out of certain things already. So
Thank you for saying that,
you
Arlene. And you're
have.
not the only. Many people have encouraged me to write.
Yes.
And I enjoy writing. So I don't know. That's why I say I must be still wobbling because I just it's as if I refuse to sit down and do it. And I want to do it.
Yes.
I want to write a book.
And
So
even if you don't
that's
write the book, put the you good your visual, the radio, the voice, put it on social media. Do the 40 to break and the wellness. I see it all that you're doing already that you
yeah.
just need to. I say you need to, but let me take the word need to. The world needs it, I'll say. The world needs it.
But you know what, Arlene, I'm glad you said that. Let me come in, and this may be why. I remember when there was a need. Remember, I talked about the need to have the house, the need to have
Yes.
the car, need to have these things because they validated me. Because social media is so easy now, I feel like I am putting the information out
You
there.
are.
You know, I feel like I am doing it. So whereas one time I might have thought I needed a book because that would be another whatever
Yes.
for me. I don't have to have, all I have to have now is to feel that I have done what I was supposed to do today.
Amen to that.
And if that book is a thing that's supposed to come about, I pray that I'm obedient to the Lord when
Yes.
He's
Amen to that.
because, and I think perhaps the reason why I didn't do it sooner is maybe I wasn't to this point. Maybe it would
Exactly.
have been just another accomplishment or another,
And
something to
that
point
makes sense.
fingers at. I don't need it to be that now. What I need now is to impact my own life and then to prayerfully be able to influence and impact other people to a better life.
I love that, Cynthia. Thank you. That
Uh,
puts it in perspective for me as well. And that makes sense because you are already doing it. Is there
mhm.
any one thing that you want to share that maybe I didn't ask or you would like to say to the audience out there? Because I mean, you have this don't even feel like it's been an interview because I feel like I am just sitting on the couch, I always love to say, with my girlfriend talking.
I love talking to
And
you, Art.
same here. The time has flown by, everyone. I'm trying to learn to put some of these podcasts into an hour, but I always say when you walk a woman's life, it's not it's not a simple walk. And when they have so many
Yeah.
lessons and they have things to share, we only want to share and help others out there. We don't want it to be
Amen.
where no one feels like they didn't get anything out of it. So I hope everyone always stick around and listen, because you everybody can learn something, and you're not alone if you've gone through any of these types, the things that Cynthia has shared, that was so transparent to share, and we thank her for being obedient to doing it, because she only wants to help everyone else. She wants you to laugh more than cry, I can tell you that, because that's all we
Amen.
want to do. That's me too. I just want to laugh more than cry. I would have never done a show about the hard things that women have gone through, but because I want women to be free and live their best
Yeah.
lives, this is what I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about, because this is what we
Yeah.
have to talk about, so someone else can see I can make it through this, or I won't wobble always. so, so
Amen.
is there anything that you would want to
Amen.
share out there that maybe?
What I would want to share, what I would want to share, Arlene, is to tell women, since this is a primarily, I think, a women's group
Yes.
of people, make peace with yourself.
Amen.
Make peace with where you are. Doesn't matter. We beat ourselves up so much. Make peace with where you are. Make peace with who you are.
Yes.
Because where you are and who you are is exactly where God knows you to be and where He knows you are. He knows your name.
Amen.
He knows your circumstance. And even in your circumstance, whatever it is, He has already made provisions for you to prosper. And you got to know that. You have to know that. You have to believe it. And you have to trust it. And
Exactly.
then you can't give up on yourself. When you begin to doubt, no, that's human nature. We do that. We are humans. We doubt. We're not perfect,
Yes. Yes.
but we do have some perfect moments. We are blessed to
Yes.
experience some perfect moments from time to time, and we should appreciate those, because God's grace and His mercy and His compassion,
Yes.
it's enough. It's enough, and we have to understand that He has allotted that for us
Mm-hmm.
each and every day. Not the same mercy, the same compassion He had for me yesterday. That belonged to yesterday.
Yes.
He has an allotment of that for me today. I don't care what your situation is, how bad it looks, how bad it feels. We got to learn to trust God. We got to learn to trust Him.
Yes.
Got to learn to trust Him with what we don't know. If you don't know it, it's okay. He does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easier said than done, but you got to do it in order for it to get easy.
I agree. That is a lot right there. And that says it all, to me as well, because I was going to ask you to share one takeaway, but make peace with yourself, and everything. He knows your name, and everything else you shared with all of that is the takeaway. And the same way he
Mhm.
forgives us, he'll forgive you as well. Let
Amen.
me ask you this, Cynthia, as we're ending. I know you don't have a set alone Facebook page for followers of health and wellness. Tell me, what if someone wanted to reach out to you regarding health and wellness?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. You can go to my Facebook page, because that's primarily what I post on there
Yes.
is about this journey. Maybe some things with my kids. I say kids because I have three beautiful granddaughters.
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's primarily what it's focused on. And also, you can see my journey on Instagram,
Okay.
and my name there is Cynthia underscore Uma underscore Urquhart. Urquhart. Cynthia underscore Uma underscore Urquhart. I also have a YouTube channel, but girl, it's so sorry. I ain't did nothing on it in weeks. But I'm gonna do better. And that's Cynthia at We Won't Wobble Always.
Yes, and that's Cynthia. What at on YouTube?
Cynthia at We Won't Wobble
Yeah, we won't
Always.
wobble always. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, follow her on Instagram, and you still click subscribe on that YouTube page. Maybe she might start posting more on there.
You, Arlene, you are a jewel. I just appreciate what you're doing for women. I just appreciate the path. I like that, the path. I was just thinking, whatever that path is, it's okay.
Yes,
Whatever it is, wherever you are on that path, it is okay. It is exactly where you are supposed to be,
yes,
based upon, where you are today. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. And it's okay. God can use you for His glory.
yes.
And I think, you know what? I think that, look, I'm going to say this and I'll really be done. I think that's the biggest message God had to get through to me, is that my life was not about me. It was not for me to
No.
be glorified, houses, cars, this,
Yes.
that, or the, my life was to glorify him. I when I got that through this thick skull of mine,
Yes.
I became better.
Same. I think that's all. That's me as well, Cynthia.
Yeah.
When you've gone through something and you've come through it and come out of it, you want to pull your sister up too.
Awesome.
And I know it's not me, it's through him through me. And I'm just doing my
Yeah.
little part. And Cynthia is
Amen.
doing her part. And whomever out there, other sisters, you have a part you have as well. And we want you just to get to that point where you play your part. We all can be in this pot together doing our part.
Gotta
Cynthia,
be
I thank you again. Thank you. I
you.
I love you. I respect you. And when I look at you, like you said, you don't look nothing like what you said your path, and you're just as beautiful as God meant for you to be. And you are the
Amen.
person he meant for you to be. And you bring so much joy again. I can't even express how much joy you bring to me and others. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to share
Amen.
before we?
Just that I love you so much, Arlene. I appreciate you. You are an amazing woman, amazing woman. And when I hear Lexi speak and I just know how you have poured into her, it's quite obvious. But I love you. I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having little old me on your
Oh,
show.
yes. Right. Oh, yeah. Right.
I love you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. And,
And I love all my sisters. Anybody that's listening, I promise you I love you. I promise you I love you.
and she
And I
means it.
wish you well.
Thank you,
I do.
Cynthia.
Really, really do. All right, boo boo.
Until next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other platforms so you can stay up on our bi weekly, real conversations with these bold women. You can follow the Path Podcast on Facebook at the Path Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at the Path underscore podcast. And if you would like to be a guest on the show or have questions for a future show, you can email us at thepath, the number 4, WARD at gmail.com. That's the path forward at gmail.com. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're in need of a life coach, please reach out to me again at the path forward at gmail.com or at ACKORLEH at gmail.com. Thank you. Until next time.